As we all know, in the last period, ISIS regulation was mobilizing and collecting the children of Deir ez-Zor inside a military encampment under the name of Caliphate cubes. Our interview today with one of those camps members, and he's from the eastern countryside, am I right? But first of all, what's your name and how old are you?
My nickname inside Caliphate Cube camps was Abu Muhammad al-Ansari, and I'm 15 years old.
Okay, how did you join those encampments?
I've joined after their fighters forced us to make all of our prayers inside the mosques. And after that they also forced us to enter a legitimacy closed course, and inside those courses they gave us some religious talks about jihad. We was 5 persons.
The religious talks about what exactly?
It was about jihad in general and how Iraqi army raped our sisters in Iraq, and as such.
Inside the regulations camps, what kinds of training that you made? And what was the lessons that you taught? And how ISIS members was dealing with you?
In the camp was inside the forest, a forest full of trees. We was digging a hole to sleep inside, a trench. There was a trench to every one of us. And at 5 a.m. we began our exercises and learning how to use weapon, shooting by AK-47 guns and more heavier weapons. After 5 o'clock there was a legitimacy lesson, and then a military lesson. He taught us about explosive build. He taught us about explosive build, how we can blowing it, how we can deal with it, in which area, in which point, how can we blow ourselves.
Quite frankly, how can you blow this build in yourselves and in others?
And how we can blow ourselves, and they said that we will achieve paradise directly.
How did you accepted the idea in that period of time?
Yes, I was ready to do so.
But why?
Because of the religious talks. Because when they said that our sisters in Iraq were raped, we found ourselves completely ready to do anything, even to blow ourselves. The military prince of the camp, who was training us on weapons, was nicknamed Abu Ismail al-Hamwi.
And of course he was known by the local people, am I right?
Yes, he was dissident.
From which army?
From regime's army.
And of course he then joined ISIS. And did you know other commanders inside ISIS regulation?
Yes, the legitimacy prince was Muqatil. The prince of whole camps in Sham, Abu Jandal al-Kuwaiti.
How did they treat with you about your personal needs? For example, did they give you vacations to see your parents?
No, they didn't allow us. First of all, they sent us to the fronts of battles. And if we made a victory and gained an areas, so that they was allowing a few of us, and if we don't, they didn't give us vacations.
So even the visitors was forbidden?
Yes, it was strictly prohibited.
So did you feel a nostalgia or longing to your parents in that period of time?
No, I didn't feel that. Because I'm a fighter, and I was making jihad. I didn't thought about my parents. And in the religious talks of the regulations members, they said that we shouldn't remember our parents. They said also, forget them. Even thinking about my parents was forbidden.
When did you feel that you must leave this regulation? And how did you decide leaving the camp specifically?
I thought about that when I finished the encampment. After we finished, they sent us to one of the fronts. It was in the front of the military airport, named Tharda Mountains. We was fighting there for 15 days, and they didn't present for us a good food. A princess came riding a modern cars, and they opened the air conditioner inside their cars, and only supervising on us. They was eating the best food, and our food was so rare. Every 3 days we saw them.
So you mean that the food was so rare for your group only, but for them it was better?
Yes, of course I mean that. And only my group was fighting in that front, and their fighters staying in the cafes.
What about your friends? Did they still fighting in that front until the moment?
They all did. I'm the only survivor. We was 5 from the same village. 4 of us was in one point, and I was fighting 4 of them. And one day, suddenly a warplane hit them. 3 of them immediately died, and 1 of them lost his foot.
هم من سيزعزعون الأرض ومن سينشرون بإذن الله الدين القيم في جميع
بالشام جيش كالأسود وجيش في العراق له احتدام لكم بالشام سنمضي لا نبالي بالمنايا فإما الموت أو عيش الكرامة صنعنا جندا عسيجا نباتا ونصنع للقى ليك الزعامة تخطى هامة الجوزاء عزما يدك الظلم ينزعه زمامة.
Then after we passed the period of encampment, and after we learned the killing, they turned to teach us about fighting. And of course, because we are youngsters, they could brainwash us quickly. They taught us also about dogma.
What is the dogma?
Vehicle bomb. They called the rider istishhadi, I mean the person who rides this vehicle. They was sending them to blow themselves among people.
And exactly where was those operations done?
It was in Iraq and Manbij and Ayash region. Yes, I mean it, and one of the troops from Tunisian nationality, they recorded him to ride a vehicle bomb after they taught him some of the legitimacy lessons. And then he blew himself. He was from immigrants, and of course they gave all the immigrants a salad.
Did you share them in the battles of Bghaliya and Ayash?
Yes, I was there in Ayash battles.
Where was your sights as a cubes of caliphates in those battles?
We was in the front of ranks, because we memorized the legitimacy lessons more than the elder fighters, followed by the other fighters, and sometimes I was watching them and I saw them by telescopes how they was fighting.
Who was leading that battle?
The leader was Abu Zubair, one of the immigrants. Yes, and he was also leading the city. He was moving them by a plasma screen with a map. He was moving them and giving them the orders. And he was also giving the order to the cubes, either achieving victory or dying without it.
I want you to talk about the associations and the inside battles that was happened in the regulations ranks. I want you to talk about this point. For example, about incident encountered you, or the grudges among leaders.
There was a prince from Deir ez-Zor from the eastern countryside, and there was also a dispute between him and one of the immigrants. And during this immigrant was walking,
would you please tell me what's the name of the Syrian prince?
أمير أبو الوليد الشامي.
Yes, his name was Abu Walid al-Shami.
يمشي وقتله.
And during that immigrant was walking, he killed him. He said that he thought him a regime soldier, but he knows that he's not. But because they were at odds, and the immigrant was always saying to him, why don't you fight with us in the front? He made this murder.
How did you decide to leave the regulation and returns to your family?
I've decided after I saw the injustice there, and after I saw the princes living a different situation, a bitter situation. We was always in the battle's front, and we don't have anything except our guns, without food, without water, sleeping. How can I say it?
You mean outdoors in the desert?
And after I saw all of these injustice, I hit myself by my gun, 2 bullets in my foot. Then the locals came to present help for me.
About this incident, of course it wasn't easy. It was a hard situation that you should shoot yourself to survive and flee.
If you don't do that, you can't flee. Because they said, either we make a victory or dying. And we should fight, and we should forget the vacations.
So by using this pretext, you finally made it.
I've shot myself and they aided me. They carried me for an hour.
Whom was those people?
They was from my village, but the immigrants and princes didn't help us. After I achieved the medical point, I find one of my relatives. They treated me, and also they gave me a 1-week vacation. Only a 1 week. And then they gave me a written promotion, allows me to trade in Al-Bab hospital. And in Al-Bab city, I find my chance to continue trading in another area. And because I have a promotion, I could go to another place. I've stayed in one of the houses for a period of time, under the pretext of my injury. One day, a friend called me, and he said that they took your weapon with the spoils, so that they will ask you to bring another one. I said, are you sure? He said, yes. And because I have those papers which allowing me to go towards Al-Bab city, and of course they didn't secure anything of my treatment, they even didn't pay for the car, or anything else.
So your treatment was on your expense?
Yes, it was on my own expense. Then I went to Al-Bab city towards the Free Syrian Army areas.
How did you do that?
I've met somebody there. He said that I should escape. And inside ISIS regulation, there was a lot of injustice. So I finally found my chance to flee.
When you entered the FSA areas, how did they treated with you?
They knew that I was in the regulation.
Really, did they knew about you?
Yes, because they have a list in ISIS fighters' names in their laptops. They said, why did you join them? And I explained my situation. They didn't hurt me. And finally, I spent 2 days with them. And then they released me. And directly I went to Turkey.
Okay, thank you so much for your valuable time.